Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
You are seeing the President of the United States. Look at the lines.
You joined our movement.
A lot of President Trump supporters here.
Greatest movement in the history of our country. I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have. And I will never, ever stop. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kimberly, Guilfoyle, Trump Victory National Chairwoman, and proud to be here tonight for another Empower Hour, exclusively here on Team Trump Online. This is hosted by the Women for Trump. And tonight I'm joined by some very close friends of mine and esteemed women, respected nationally. We have joining us Dr. Gina Loudon. We have Madison Jessiota and Katrina Campins. Thank you all for being here tonight in this special Empower Hour. And let's get started. Lots to discuss because President Trump is hard at work trying to safely reopen this country and get America back to work. So let's talk about that. And Dr. Gina, I'll begin with you. Now that we are seeing some of these deadlines come up where people are in fact saying we're going to start reopening the country on a state-by-state basis. In your state of Florida, we've seen that Governor DeSantis has been working with President Trump to get the Sunshine State back to work. So how do the president's guidelines empower governors to safely reopen our economy and get Americans back to work while still keeping Americans healthy and safe?
Well, the president has demonstrated, Kimberly, so wonderfully throughout this entire chapter in our country's history that he's truly a constitutionalist and that he's listening to the voice of the American people and that he's willing to be transparent and that he's willing to reach not just into each state and work with each governor, on the local level, but also that he's willing to reach across party lines to work with whomever is willing to work with him in whatever way they're willing to. And I think people in all states have to appreciate that. But I know that we in the state of Florida, such an instrumental state, such a huge state, we really appreciate the way the president has worked with our state and empowered each state really to make sure that we are safe and able to open. Some states don't have the devastation of other states, and the president recognizes this. And so he's gone about the business of giving each governor the power that they need to open their states because the president recognizes that lives are saved when the country is reopened in the ways that it can be just as quickly as possible, while all caution is also taken to make sure that it's done in a healthy way.
Fantastic, which of course is so, as the president has said, even, one death is one death too many, but also we need to make sure that we're not hurting and crippling people and getting the economy back up and running as soon as possible. So Katrina, you are a business mogul, real estate maven, and also an apprentice alumni. So you know firsthand that President Trump has built the strongest and most powerful economy in modern history. That is without question. I mean, record low unemployment across the board, over 7 million jobs created. And because of this, his pro-growth economic policies, including deregulation, tax reform, tax cuts, which is very powerful and what's needed to get the country up and running again. Now, juxtaposition, you have on the other side, Joe Biden, who has said he would immediately reverse the Trump tax cuts if he was elected, which is quite problematic when you think about it to begin with, and that he would, in fact, his economic plan would heavily raise taxes on the middle class. He backs $1 trillion Green New Deal that AOC put forward that would change life as we know it. Why is Joe Biden trying to destroy the middle class and our overall economy?
Well, President Trump is a businessman, so he knows exactly what it takes to make this country work. And we've experienced that these past few years. I remember the first time around campaigning for him, I was actually doing a segment on Fox News, and they were debating with me about the fact that the Obama-Biden administration had only experienced a GDP growth of 2.1%, and that was great. And the economists were actually stating, Obama's economist, of course, was stating that it was mathematically impossible to reach the GDP growth that President Trump was predicting. And guess what? We've experienced the GDP growth that President Trump predicted under his presidency. What he's done for women, for African Americans, for Latinos is unheard of. More women now are in the workforce than ever before. And I think it's really important to know that I did another interesting segment because I'm in real estate. So the segment was about new construction. And because he's done such an amazing job with regulations and removing so many regulations, we saw that the red states actually had more new construction startups than the blue states. And the reason for that is, again, President Trump. So everything he has done has been to fuel the economy. We saw such growth in the economy, and now obviously we're in a pandemic, but he's doing everything in his power to bring the economy back after this. He did it once, and he will do it again. And what I love about President Trump is he has guts. He stands up for what's right, and he does it time and time again. And think about being attacked the way that he's been attacked and still being able to achieve. It's amazing. I mean, he doesn't sleep. I can't function on 4 hours sleep, but he does somehow. And he just gets attacked every which way, and still our country has flourished. So I think that shows his character, his determination, and his love for America.
Absolutely. We really can't afford to make a terrible, perilous choice like Joe Biden, who really would just further, put the nail in the coffin in terms of the American economy. So, Madison, I'm going to bring you in here. You've been quite active on Twitter, and you've been tweeting about states like Michigan, whose leadership, quite frankly, is pushing draconian quarantine rules. Now, in response, Americans have, in fact, exercised their right to protest, reminding the Democrat Governor Whitmer that the Constitution, in fact, still governs American life. Now, of course, we respect Americans exercising, without question, their First Amendment right to peacefully protest, but we hope that it's done in a way that is compliant with, CDC guidelines, and you have to balance that out by observing social distancing. What do you think about these protests, the impact on liberty and public safety?
Well, as you know, I'm from right across the Michigan border in Ohio. And, I understand a lot of the frustrations that a lot of my friends and former colleagues in Michigan have had with Governor Whitmer. And you look at some of the measures that she's implemented in that state, and you can't help but be frustrated for those Michigan citizens. And what I think is so great about people exercising their First Amendment rights, even in Michigan, we've seen firsthand them doing so in ways that protect both themselves and those around them. Some of these protests that we've seen have actually been inside their cars, which was so interesting because, as you know, what we're facing is something that we haven't seen in this country in regards to a pandemic in over 100 years since the Spanish flu. And so people are really bringing attention to what they feel is, an overreach and a trample on their constitutional rights. And what's really great about this is that we've seen Attorney General Barr now come out and direct federal prosecutors to really be on the lookout for state infringe on these constitutional rights. And so people in Michigan and across the country are taking note of that and are happy to hear that our Attorney General is standing up for the Constitution and making sure that our rights are protected as we begin this reopening. As Trump said, we can't allow the solution to be worse than the problem in this case.
Absolutely. It's such a great point. And that's why it just shows you really need someone who's quite capable and adept at making these decisions and balancing these competing interests, which are all very important to make sure that we don't jump the gun on this, but that, we reopen in a way that makes sense and that is thoughtful and has some predictive quality and elements to it based on the research and the data that he's getting in. So President Trump has, in fact, up to date, definitely shown his leadership, his resolve, his excellence in making, good choices for the country. And one of them in particular, he was really vehemently criticized and castigated about, which was the fact that he restricted travel. And he did this to be able to protect our health and also, quite frankly, our economy. So in January, when he restricted the travel from China, they, said that he was xenophobic, that it was racist. And in fact, this was a move that Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, criticized. Okay. And in the last weeks, to protect American jobs, the president also suspended immigration for 2 months to ensure that jobs actually go to American citizens, putting America first, which was his platform and agenda to begin with, about putting Americans back to work and not exporting the American dream, which previous administrations have done. Now, surprise, surprise, Joe Biden criticized that move as well. So I just want to kind of throw this out there and see what you guys think. But, what does this say, quite frankly, about Joe Biden's inability to lead, to make tough decisions and smart choices that benefit the American people?
Well, Joe Biden can't even conduct his own interviews. I mean, at this point, he has his wife, Jill, actually doing his interviews for him because they figured out that even when he has his script right in front of him to answer his softball interviews, by the way, because let's not forget, all of the media is on board with Joe Biden. So they're throwing softball questions at him. They're putting notes in front of him so that he has the answers scripted for him, and he still can't handle an interview. The thought of this man in any way having control during even peaceful, easy times, let alone doing the hard, dirty work that our president, Donald Trump, has done of bringing our economy from 0 to 100, like our president has done, and setting this economy on fire, creating the world's best economy ever, not just for the elite, but for the little guy like our president did for the blue collar worker, bringing manufacturing back. Imagine where we'd be right now, Kimberly, if we were looking at the economy that we started out with after Obama, before our president was there. Imagine where we'd be if our president hadn't brought manufacturing back to this country and begun the dirty work of securing our borders the way he has. And so if he hadn't done all of that preparatory work before this pandemic hit us, there would be no America to go back to. Thank God for President Trump. Joe Biden couldn't have handled it for 5 seconds.
Absolutely. Katrina, I'll bring you in on this because, you and I both work closely with Latinos for Trump. And, I take personal offense, as I'm sure you do, these comments calling the president repeatedly. They pulled the race card. They call him a racist. They said he was xenophobic for shutting down travel. It actually shows to be something that was a very, very smart decision that actually saved American lives. How do you respond when people make these racial attacks against the president?
Well, I think, what's crazy to me is that I think it's actually racist the first time around when they said that Latinos, for instance, would not vote for President Trump because he was against illegal immigration. Completely the opposite. My parents came here. They fled the Castro regime. They did it the right way. They worked hard. My grandmother worked at a factory making 25 cents an hour, raising 3 young girls by herself. My dad washed dishes at the Fontainebleau for a family of 4. We worked hard. Latinos are all about hard work, faith, integrity, and we want to fight for our freedom here. The American dream is not given, it's earned. And what they don't understand when they say that Latinos will not vote for President Trump, I mean, that's racist in itself. And, the fact, what's really comical to me is that there's so many pictures of President Trump with all of these African-American leaders during my time on the first season of The Apprentice, for instance. They all came to our party, to our Apprentice party, and they loved President Trump then, but now he's a racist. It just doesn't make sense. The narrative keeps on changing according to what they want it to be. But this president does not back down. He is a warrior and he has God on his side.
You're absolutely right. I get a quick comment before we go to commercial break from Madison.
This president has exceeded expectations, even some of the goals he set for himself on the 2016 campaign trail. This has been almost 4 years of promises made, promises kept, in a way in which we've never seen in decades, from Republicans or Democrats. He's benefited every single American. He's worked hard even for those who didn't vote for him. And we're seeing right now, when we look at the approval ratings throughout this coronavirus pandemic, that independents and Democrats are now coming over and supporting this president and his leadership throughout this pandemic. We're seeing higher approval ratings with those independents and those Democrats than we've ever seen before. So people support this president, and I think we're going to see a great victory in November.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to take on, yes, the big talker of the past week, which is the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden, the double standard by the media, and the reasons why he is unfit to lead and unprepared to be president of the United States. Stay with us.
In 2016, we built an unbeatable operation that changed history. Now, we unveil our next breakthrough. The exclusive Trump 2020 app. This isn't just an app. This is your source for real news, not fake news. Straight from the campaign and the president himself. This is your direct line to give input on key campaign issues. Your portal to register voters. Host MAGA meetups. Your scheduler. Your application on becoming a Trump team leader. Join millions and get a front row seat to our virtual events. Watch Team Trump every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Earn points, get rewarded. Get the presidential photo. Oh, and did we mention, this is your personal shopper too? So just to repeat, this isn't just an app. This is your tool to keep America great. Join the army for Trump and download the app today.
All right, welcome back to the Empower Hour on Team Trump Online. And I am joined by three of the smartest, toughest, most loyal patriots I know in the country that support our fantastic president, Donald Trump. I have Dr. Gina Loudon and Katrina Campins and Madison Jessiota with me today, and it is fantastic to have you ladies in this important Empower Hour. And hello again to everybody out there who is joining us. We're very happy to have you spend this hour with us. Now we're going to move on to talking about how women support President Trump. And, you know, ladies, all of us have been traveling across the country, campaigning to support the president, spreading his Winning America First message. And I know when I've gone to all of these rallies, and Don Jr. and I have been in just about every single state, it is powerful the number of women that, you know, show up to support the president, that carry the signs and have incredible stories of entrepreneurship and how their lives have been changed by President Trump. And as we know, you know, the numbers don't lie. The record low unemployment for women in this country under President Trump, and he'll do it again, and more female entrepreneurs, in fact, as well. And, you know, I want to talk to you about this. You know, Katrina, as a businesswoman, you know this, and of course, as well, you know, like we've discussed, being on The Apprentice and knowing the president for a very long time. You know, what do you see when you talk to women around the country about why their policies, why the policies of President Trump resonate with them personally?
Well, the first time I campaigned, I went around the country with Laura Trump and Lynn Patton and a few amazing women. And at that time, the media narrative was that women were never going to vote for President Trump. And the amount of women that actually showed up, and this was grassroots, and they showed up by the hundreds. There was lines outside, and I knew that he was onto something big. And now what's amazing is that the majority of female donors for President Trump's campaign are actually female. So over 50% are female. He's getting such support from women because what he has done from women has never been done before. As you stated, the unemployment rate for women is the lowest it's been in 66 years. This is a president that knows the power of women. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I was on the first season of The Apprentice, and for a decade after that, I always noticed that he had a lot of women working at the Trump Organization.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because macroeconomics shows that when women join the workforce, they become more productive. It's not a feminist comment. It's simply because men and women share different skill sets and they complement each other very well. So President Trump has always surrounded himself by women, and he continues to do so even now. And we're seeing the results of that throughout the economy. We're seeing that more women actually are employed. We're seeing that more women are becoming the breadwinners in households. And it's really exciting and interesting to see. And I think it's going to only continue once this pandemic is over. So, of course, women are voting for him because they're seeing the success. You know, the narrative before was, oh, women only care about abortion. That's not what the only issue on the table. Women are entrepreneurs. We're smart, and we want what's best for this economy and for this country.
Absolutely. And, like you mentioned, this is a consistent trading quality. And this isn't just something that occurred, while he was president. This has been his lifelong, mission, where he has actually really empowered women, given them important positions, meaningful positions in his places of employment. And as you know, having, been at so many of his different companies and properties, he's extremely well regarded by women and minorities at all of his different businesses throughout the country and, quite frankly, internationally. So let's move on a little bit to what some of the breaking news and developments, really a bombshell that was released about Joe Biden and the sexual assault allegations were made by Tara Reade. Now we've seen just over the past week, and the weekend, more information, corroborating evidence coming forward about those allegations. And in fact, even the mother of Tara Reade calling in to Larry King back in 1993 on one of the episodes live, calling in to talk about and describe her daughter's abuse. Now, Madison, you know that Joe Biden and his team, they've denied the allegations, and the media has willingly been complicit and really hypocritical in terms of the double standard, because if it was President Trump or Trump, they would be all over this. But you saw even public pressure trying to even get the New York Times or CNN or anybody to cover some of this. Let's get your reaction.
It's been honestly absolutely astonishing, not only to hear the silence of the mainstream media on this, but to also hear the silence of so many Democrats in Congress. Right. I mean, this is the exact opposite of the way they behaved when allegations were raised against our president, as well as when allegations were raised against Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, Justice Kavanaugh had an impeccable record for decades. He had never had an allegation lodged against him in his life. And these people dubbed this man as guilty before ever having a piece of evidence to prove a claim. It was disgusting the way he was treated. And, when this was going on, I spoke a lot about the fact that we see much selective moral outrage, as well as the willingness of the left to allow the lives of good men to be ruined by false allegations. And so every single allegation, it's so important that it is investigated and, evidence and proof is, raised when we're going through this. But in this case, it's, I think, just discouraging to see the unwillingness of the media and of the Democrats to investigate a claim because it's a claim against somebody that they agree with. I'm very disappointed by this. I'm frustrated by this. And when we look at the comparison of claims against Kavanaugh, claim against Biden, there's actually much more evidence, including what you mentioned, that CNN interview, which is kind of ironic that CNN doesn't want to, cover something that they had on their own network.
But they had exclusive
multiple other witnesses at that time, Kimberly, that had come forward saying to Business Insider and others that they were told about this in the 90s by Tara Reade herself, and that they are people, actually one of them is a woman who supports Joe Biden, but she says that she believes this is true, and she was told about this almost 30 years ago by Tara Reade.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, you make some excellent points there, and it's just shocking. You would think that a network, if they had the exclusive on something and the footage of it, but yet they won't go near it like it's kryptonite, because it, in fact, impacts a candidate that they've chosen and decided, quote unquote, as journalists, that they essentially want to be president. So it's unbelievable. And you see the same hypocrisy with the celebrities in Hollywood, Alyssa Milano, all the rest of them. God forbid, if it's a candidate of their choice or it's a Democrat or a liberal, they turn a blind eye to it, which is really, it's actually, harmful to women and people that are making, serious, credible allegations out there, that there's this double standard, and it just further victimizes women that are trying to come forward and be truthful and honest. So yeah, very important, I think, that we touched on that. Dr. J, I want to go to you on this because we can get behind the psychology of what is going on with the gaffe machine here. Joe Biden, it's unbelievable. He doesn't know the difference between his, wife and his sister. He's got like 10 teleprompters for 2 talking points. They have him locked in his basement. I don't know what's going on. You kind of touched upon this a little bit, earlier, where everyone's like, well, he's just, this is our crazy Uncle Joe. He's just eccentric. This is how he is. But he has really seemed to have like a lack of like a grasp kind of on reality or what's going on or where he is. He seems like he's like running for, and talking about he's running for Senate instead of, president. The whole thing is kind of disturbing. And I think we actually have a clip that we can show to take a look at one of his most recent gaffes.
General Motors was going to do the right thing, but they didn't. They were going to, I forget exactly how he characterized it, in the CVC parking lots and Walgreens parking lots. And I forget the other one he mentioned. I forget the exact phrase used.
So, Gina, clearly, Biden struggles with even giving a simple answer to a basic question. He has got to check his notes during the interview. Can't remember what state he's in, the whole thing. Doesn't this kind of suggest he's unfit in the United States?
So my question is, God forbid Biden has authority over anything, who would actually be running it? I wouldn't want him to run my local AAA office, let alone the highest office really in the country or the world. And so it's a very scary prospect to think that the Democrats would even cover for him to begin with. And an even perhaps scarier prospect to think about the way that the leftist media has proceeded to continue to cover for him. When you look at the signs of dementia, you can't really say someone actually has dementia unless you've done a whole clinical analysis on someone. But anybody, any layman can read the signs of dementia, and you can see that there are certain things, these temperamental outbursts you see where he gets angry and yells at a reporter who asks him a question, or just even at his town halls. Remember where he yelled at the one guy and called him the series of names that was so funny. And these kinds of little temperamental outbursts, this frustration. Unfortunately, I have a couple of relatives who have experienced dementia, and I've seen this. And so those are some things. And then, of course, obviously the trailing off of thought, not being able to keep focus, and then his inability really sometimes to actually attend things that he needs to attend. There are times where he should be present, like throughout this whole pandemic, where he's sort of hidden out and really not been there. I don't know what's going to happen, if you put him on a stage next to Donald Trump for a debate. I can't even fathom what would happen. And it really makes you wonder what they have up their sleeve. But there's another thing I want to echo back to, Kimberly, that you brought up before with both Madison and Katrina. It scares me as a mental health professional and somebody who's studied human behavior my whole life. How much would Joe Biden, as a mother of 5 children, I want to ask, how defensive would he be of our daughters in the highest office of the land with a background like his, not defending women, and the media defending him, not defending women? Where can we really, who could we really count on to defend our daughters when they're all going to run and hide, when there actually is evidence on Joe Biden, like there wasn't on any of the accusations against Kavanaugh or other conservatives when the media bit? So that would be another question I would want to ask. What happens to our daughters in the way they want to seem to cover up this situation with Joe Biden? I think it's scary.
You're absolutely right, because no one will hold him accountable, because no one in the party is holding him accountable. No one held him accountable in the past or in the Senate or when he was vice president. And so what assurances do we have that he will even be held accountable, God forbid, if he were to become president of the United States? Those are the important questions and topics we're talking about right here on our Women for Trump Empower Hour. Stay with us. I'll be back with Dr. Gina, Katrina, and Madison.
We turn now to that $350 billion fund to help small businesses and its workers get through the shutdown.
It will be up to Congress to restock it.
But Democrats blocking that move this morning.
They asked for $250 billion in 48 hours. I said, well, I don't think so. They objected, and I congratulate the Senate Democrats.
Speaker Pelosi, what are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate candy.
Thousands have been forced to wait for hours at food banks all across the country.
This is
oh my
chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here. We just got it restocked with the ice cream.
You don't want to eat up everything all at one time.
I can't do it much longer. I'm trying so hard.
We were, shall we say, enjoying.
Having to admit that, yeah, we're starving, and
I like it better than anything else.
Taping this segment, there are 22 million people out of work.
This specific program is about stopping job losses today.
This is hurting people bad.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but
right now it's survival move. You don't know where that next something else is going to come from.
I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented. I just wonder.
Hi, And welcome back to the Women for Trump Empower Hour. So happy to be spending this time with you, and thank you for choosing to spend the time with us. I'm here with Dr. Gina, Katrina, and Madison again, our fantastic panel for this evening. So let's talk about Joe Biden and the coronavirus. He's on record saying that he's excited about the coronavirus because it will allow Democrats to push institutional change in this country, like the Green New Deal, which I like to call the Green New Steel. And that is the harebrained idea of the left and the liberals and the squad and the AOCs of the world that really want to turn this country into a socialist country. But we know under President Trump, America will never be a socialist country, thank God. So this is clearly not the time to be pushing this radical agenda. But Democrats can't seem to help themselves. They're looking for this opportunity, Madison. What does this say about Joe Biden's priorities for this country during this time of crisis?
Well, it's not just Joe Biden. It's every single one of these Democrats that have been absolutely shameless throughout the coronavirus pandemic. These are the same Democrats that in January were continuing to push the impeachment narrative, some of them still talking about Russian collusion, which was proven to be a complete hoax. Joe Biden, as you know, criticized the president for cutting off travel from China back in January, when ultimately this saved countless lives. You look at those projections of what they expected to happen here in the United States with coronavirus infections and deaths, and we see the numbers, which were way, way less than that. And so the measures that the president took were incredible and really getting ahead of this. But when it comes to Joe Biden saying he's excited about coronavirus and the opportunity to potentially push something like the Green New Deal, I mean, I think this is sick, first of all, to ever say you could be excited about something like the coronavirus. But it's also sick to think that there are people out there like Joe Biden, like AOC and others, who actually believe or purport to believe that the Green New Deal would benefit Americans. Not only afford, but it would be a job killer. And it's not an America First policy that we want to be pushing forward. As you know, Joe Biden has come out specifically saying that he is against American First policies, and that it's not about America First. Well, it is about America First. That's part of why President Trump was elected. People in this country, especially women, want to feel like they're being put first, that our needs and priorities are being listened to and met by those who we elect to represent us in Washington. And we've seen incredible results, and this president's delivered, and Joe Biden would simply not be able to do that. And it's totally aside from the cognitive decline that we're seeing with Joe Biden. I don't think Joe Biden would have been able to do that as president 10, 15 years ago. He's simply not the man for the job. And his policies have gone way farther left than the Joe Biden, some moderate Democrats liked 20, 30 years ago. He and his party do not fit the needs of the American people. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're totally out of touch with the American people. And that's why this is just, such a stark contrast, in fact. And it's really something that could be crippling to the American economy, going forward, which is just another very strong, persuasive reason why we need President Trump to win resoundingly on November 3rd. And that's a fact. Katrina, bring you in here. So there are still so many incredible patriotic Americans that are working the essential jobs that are really keeping us all going, quite frankly. And we owe them a debt of gratitude from the front lines at hospitals with our healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, people working inside the hospital. Yesterday we saw the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds doing a flyover, which is incredible and inspirational. We have grocery store clerks, we have delivery drivers, all of these people chipping in and essentially putting themselves in peril to make sure that we can keep things going and remain healthy. It's pretty incredible. Can you share some stories about how these fantastic Americans are keeping our country going during this time?
Well, it's really remarkable that a lot of these doctors and nurses are putting their own lives at risk. Some of them are not even meeting with their own children in order to keep their children safe so that they can help those that are ill. I think one thing that's been really remarkable is I'm a woman of deep faith, and I've seen people just search for God during this time and bring God back into their soul, and the importance of family, which I believe the Democrats have wanted to. I think that has always been one of their strategies, is just to destroy families and remove God from the equation. so that they can control. And I think this situation, I've seen it with my own eyes, has brought families back together, has brought God back into their souls, and has united us. You know, as the Pledge of Allegiance says, united we stand. And I'm seeing that more now than ever. And President Trump is the leader that we need to continue to make this economy come back as well, and to continue with the values that made this country as great as it is today.
Fantastic. I couldn't have said it better. Amen. That's really so true. And that's what we have to focus on, that strength and that spirituality during this time, and how it's bringing us, all together. But as a country, we do need, a fearless leader, and definitely the choice is, President Trump. And that's why we're all working so hard to make sure that he is reelected. So ladies, to wrap up this evening's show, I really want to focus, on our strength as Americans. And we have, as you all know, faced incredible challenges before, and we've always overcome them together, because we are USA strong, and that is a fact. It is crucial, imperative to have a strong leader like President Trump that's going to unite us and continue to unite us, bring us together as a country into new and greater heights. President Trump has said, in fact, he's built this incredible, historic American economy, and he said he will do it again. And I believe him, and I know you guys believe him. Just want to get some of your closing thoughts, your remarks, and Dr. Jean, I come to you first.
Well, thanks. I just have to go right back to promises made, promises kept. Kimberly, I've heard Democrats say to me that they love the way this president is the first politician they know, even if they don't agree with the promises that he made, they saw him keep them, and that they wish that their politicians were the type of politicians that they knew when they made a promise, they would keep it. And I think that he has set a precedent that is holding all politicians accountable at all levels of government. They know they're not going to be able to get away with making promises just for campaign periods and then not keeping them. That tells us that if this president says, I did it before, I built it before, I'm going to build it again, he's going to. His love for America is unparalleled. I don't think there's ever been a president who has loved his country the way this president does, and who has sacrificed so much just to be president, given up so much of his personal wealth, his personal comfort, frankly, sleep, so much of his family time, his retirement, just to continue to be president, all while taking a million knives in his back every day. We owe him a great debt of gratitude, and that's why so many of us are so enthusiastic about supporting him and ushering him back in to be president in 2020.
Absolutely. I feel super inspired by it, and that's why we get up and we work so hard every day and get after it, work harder than next. Katrina, your comment.
We've never seen a president that is so raw and real and unfiltered, which the Americans appreciate. We're not being told lies. This isn't a script. This is coming from his heart. This is what he's always wanted to do, to bring this country back, and he's doing it now. One thing that's remained the same, I remember from the first season of The Apprentice, even the producers couldn't control him because he said what was on his mind, and that's what we love about him. That's what made The Apprentice the #1 show. What's making this country great is because he can't be controlled, and that's why I stand behind President Trump, and because he's got guts. Because he's a warrior, and he's going to bring this economy right back a second time.
True. You need a fighter. You need a fighter, and somebody who has his stamina and his strength. He's unbelievable. Don Jr., I'll talk to him. It's at midnight. He's still in the Oval Office. He's still working, because each and every one of you and all those Americans out there are worth it, and the country is worth it, and that's why he does it. Madison, we'll get your thoughts.
Kimberly, I'm so proud to be an American. I'm so proud of the job that President Trump has done. And while the four of us and so many others, listening in on this call today, agree and understand how important it is to reelect him in November, we have to continue to face the realization that, we're up against a media that is spewing fake news each and every day. And so it's so very important for us as women to get out in our communities. And right now, while we're quarantining, to use the technology that, that we're so blessed to have, to spread the truth about our president, to spread the truth about those promises made, promises kept that we've all mentioned tonight on Empower Hour, and to continue to get out there and vote and make sure that we ensure a re-election victory for our president in November, because each and every one of our lives and the future generations of this country will be affected by those results. And we want to make sure that we have continued promises made, promises kept, and that we do see that economy rebuilt once again after this coronavirus pandemic. Our president loves the United States of America. He works very hard every single day, and let's make sure we give him that opportunity to do so for another 4 more years.
Absolutely. Amen. From your mouth to God's ears. And it is such a pleasure and honor and a privilege, quite frankly, to be able to work on this campaign, I think, with some of the smartest, toughest, bravest women, and 3 of them joining me here tonight. You really are tremendous inspirations to women, to all women, all Americans. And I love your love of this country and your support of the president. Can't thank you enough for joining us this evening. And do remember, the best is yet to come. And for those of you at home, thank you for choosing us and to spend this hour, this Empower Hour, with our Team Trump online. It's a pleasure to be welcomed into your homes during this time. And there are ways that you can become involved and get in with us on this greatest American election campaign that we've had with President Trump. It's incredible. And it really are, unprecedented times in our country and in our nation. And if you would like to stay in contact with us, you can text Trump to 88022. And if you or your friends, your family, your neighbors, anybody would like to be involved to help reelect President Trump, you can visit our armyfortrump.com website to sign up. And also, we have a fantastic new app that you can download, the Trump 2020 app from the App Store. There's also fun ways to be social by social distancing still, which are MAGA meetups. You can also become a volunteer, register for online events, and earn exclusive prizes. And there's one thing near and dear to my heart as the national chair for the Trump Victory Finance Committee. It would be incredible if we could get you to join as a bundler. It is a nationwide grassroots populist movement of volunteers raising money across the country for the president. And you can go to donaldjtrump.com/bundle or text bundle to 88022 and join us. And we have great briefings and online events, and we'll be eventually out there hosting events for the president. And you can win by raising even up to $35,000 a picture with the President of the United States. And wouldn't that be incredible to keep and have? So, and you can even win certain prizes, by the way, for even raising $1,000 for the President. Our average donation is 38 big, beautiful American dollars. So you raise $1,000, you can be part of our winning team of grassroots givers for the president. So it's pretty exciting, and I would love to see you at some of our future events. I want to say thank you again to our special guests here. They are such phenomenal, beautiful American women, great patriots, Dr. Gina, Katrina, and Madison. We look forward to seeing you again here on Team Trump Online. Everybody, please stay healthy, stay safe, keep fighting for President Trump. God bless you, and God bless America and the President of the United States. Good night.